And just to introduce Shane, he is ICAgile coach, trainer, mentor. And for Leadership Tribe, he's been a great friend personally for me. And even when I go down to Nando's with my partner, take a picture and share it to him, because I shared some memories, good memories, being this amazing human being, working at team level, business unit, at the enterprise level, and beyond that. He also works with governments of different countries. For example, Singapore, he's been doing some amazing work there. And I'm definitely in love with this guy because we share a common theme is around people, around human beings, how to uplift them to be better than what they were before. And on that note, I want to hand it over to Shane.
Well, Krishna, thank you very much for that very warm welcome. And thank you all very much for coming along to listen to me waffle on a little bit about the competencies of enterprise coaching. So let's do the screen share thing. I do actually have some a bit of a slide deck. So yeah, so as Krishna said, my name is Shane Hastie. My day job is I'm the Director of Community Development for ICAgile. And I spend a large chunk of my time looking after our member organizations, such as Leadership Tribe. But before we get into the content, I've got a question for you. So please, if you would be so kind as to go along to menti.com, and when it asks for the code 9682000, and just a couple of words, what comes to mind when you hear the term enterprise coaching? And it'll generate a word cloud for us. I hope it will generate a word cloud for us.
I have shared the code in the group chat. You should have the menti.com URL and the code.
And 9682000 is the code. Starting to get some results there. Leadership, working beyond teams, changing organization culture, coaching, facilitating. Now we're seeing starting to flow. Large scale structure, people, business agility, facilitating, culture, coaching. Enterprise transformation. Ooh. Structure, coaching, large scale. Changing org culture. Ooh. All simple, easy things, huh? Leadership. Oops. I'll leave the Mentimeter poll there, and we can come back to it a bit later on. So the competencies of enterprise coaching are wide and deep, and truly becoming an effective enterprise coach is something that requires years of deep, deliberate practice. It is far from an easy thing. So a bit of an agenda for this session. I'll talk a little bit about who we are at ICAgile, and touch on our business agility learning roadmap, the domains of Agile coaching, then go deeper into those competencies, and then what is the journey towards mastery. So ICAgile, the International Consortium for Agile, we are a certification and accreditation body founded in 2010, deliberately methodology agnostic. We've been a global organization from the very beginning. We've been a virtual organization from the very beginning. So it was pretty straightforward for us when the world went virtual. We just continued largely doing what we were doing. We work with global experts to identify competencies in the different disciplines that would fall under the Agile umbrella. And we then work with these experts, and we publish as Creative Commons assets, free for the world, a sets of learning outcomes that define these different competencies that then training providers can take and build courses against, and anyone else can take and use them to help build and guide their own careers. Our mission as an organization is to advance the state of Agile learning globally. So from one point of view, being able to publish those learning outcomes and make them freely available, well, it improves if a training organization, whether or not they're a member of ICAgile, if they take our content and they use it to design courses, it will be better than if they just made something up. Obviously, we would prefer that organizations actually go the next step. And that's what Leadership Tribe, among many others, have done, where they become a member of the consortium and they take those learning outcomes and they build the courses and they then bring them to us. A large chunk of my time is spent evaluating course content against those learning outcomes. And we look at the learning, does the course meet the learning outcomes? We look at the course design, has it been effectively designed for adult learning? And we look at the instructors. We actually assess every one of the instructors. So if you go to an ICAgile accredited course delivered by an authorized instructor, then you can be confident that the learning outcomes that we have published have been met, that the content is good, and that the instructor is not only able to teach, but they bring a level of background knowledge and experience so that they can talk to the real content. And that for us is really important, that credibility of the instructor community and of our member organizations. So that's why we exist. We do grant certification. Your instructors, the instructors grant the certification, and the assessment for certification is in the classroom. And most of our certifications are knowledge-based, which is quite important. There's a distinction between a knowledge-based certification and a competency certification, which I will touch on a little bit later on in this session. So what's up there at the moment is what we call the ICAgile Business Agility Learning Roadmap. These are the different areas where organizations need to build competency if they're going to take an Agile approach beyond product development. We have another roadmap, which is very much about product delivery and product development. But if you're going beyond, and typically this is taking Agile outside of IT, if you're going into other parts of the organization, then there are big changes that need to happen. And the competencies that the organization needs are what is defined in this set of learning tracks. The first one, the one in purple that we're going to look at today, is the Enterprise Coaching for Agility. The complementor to that is the Agility and Leadership track. So Enterprise Coaching for Agility is guiding the organization. Agility and Leadership is truly embedded leading the organization. Then in the middle is the Operating with Agility, which is where the different areas of the organization need to adopt a different way of thinking. So we've got agility in finance, marketing, HR, adaptive org design, product development, lean portfolio management. These are quite significant shifts for the way people think and work in these areas of the organization. So for instance, the agility in HR is not how to run Scrum in an HR department. It's how, as an HR department, do we completely change in order to support an organization that is becoming fundamentally agile at its core? What are the existing HR practices that get in the way, and what are the new HR practices that will enable agility at its core? And the same for marketing, the same for finance, likewise for organizational design. This is how do we have an organization that is fundamentally adaptive and responsive. So not just the people can respond, but what about the overall structure of the organization? And product development as a customer-focused discipline, and portfolio management in a very, very different way of working. But let's talk a little bit about the Enterprise Coaching for Agility track. And we have two certifications in there. The first one, Agility in the Enterprise, and the second one, Coaching Agile Transitions. And those certifications are knowledge-based. I mentioned this distinction. A knowledge-based certification is a commitment that the participant who was on this course has learned something. It is not competency, but it is an assertion that having acquired this certificate, the instructor is stating to the world, this person has shown evidence of having learned something in this topic. And the something, of course, is the learning outcomes that we publish. And this talk is going to touch on some of the key themes of those learning outcomes. The first step in this pathway, Agility in the Enterprise, and the second step, Coaching Agile Transitions. Those two are both knowledge-based certifications. Going beyond that is a very different type of certification. The ICAgile Certified Expert in a Discipline is a competency-based certification that is hard to achieve. It requires a longitudinal cohort program of 6 to 9 months at least duration, building on top of multiple years of experience in the discipline, where you are not just showing that you know this stuff, but you are deepening your practice, and you're able to prove to a group of your peers that you can do this stuff. And that expert certification is in the Shu-Ha-Re model. This is a solid Ha moving towards Re. This is somebody who not just knows the content of the discipline, but truly embodies it and understands it. But let's talk about what is the discipline? What's involved in this enterprise coaching? Well, this is the framework. No, my slides got a little bit of a glitch, but this is the framework from the Agile Coaching Institute, publicized initially in Lisa Adkins' book on coaching agile teams. These are the broad disciplines that people need to have to coach an organization at any level through an agile transformation. You have to have a deep and solid understanding of the agile practices and values and principles. And it sits on that foundation of the agile mindset, the philosophy of work, living the agile values. Then you need coaching competencies, you need facilitation, you need teaching, you need mentoring. You need to be able to do that. And if you're moving into an enterprise coach role, you need to be able to do that with people who are at that senior level in the organization. So the credibility of coaching an executive, the competency, the nuances to be able to teach old dogs new tricks, so to speak, which is perhaps a little bit harsh, but bringing new ideas into the leadership teams of organizations. Having come from that space with a mentoring stance and being able to facilitate, and at that level you're talking about facilitating some what are at times challenging interactions in that senior leadership level in organizations. So these are competencies of coaching, of agile coaching in general. If you're going into enterprise coaching, you're stepping up from being able to work at the functional team level to bringing these competencies to the leadership level. And then the mastery, you need to have a strong transformational mastery, a deep understanding of what it means to be a change catalyst, to guide the transformation of organizations. And that's a hackneyed term that is used a lot, transformation today, but it really matters. Ahmed Sidki, one of the founders of ICAgile, uses the metaphor when he talks about transformation of going from a bowl of strawberries to strawberry jam. The other common metaphor is the butterfly, but the bowl of strawberries to strawberry jam is, you can take an organization and you can move things around, and you can put, you can have strawberries, you can put cream on them, you can move them around, you can put sugar on them, but you haven't made jam. You might have a big pile of strawberries, you still haven't fundamentally changed the nature of that stuff. Transformation is about changing the fundamental nature of. And if we talk about organizational transformation, moving towards an agile approach, it can be as uncomfortable as making strawberry jam, where you're boiling it, you're adding sugar, you're changing it, it's real constituency. And you can't go backwards from strawberry jam to a bowl of strawberries. It's a different thing, and that's a key element of the transformation mastery that the enterprise coach needs to be able to bring. So if we think of the different breadth and scope of what this discipline of agile coaching, we start at with know yourself, and then coach and work with individuals and and teams, that team facilitation, and then the working across teams and maybe up at the program level is the team coach, the agile coaching discipline. And in the ICAgile learning pathways, there is a track that is dedicated to team facilitation and coaching, and then we move up into the organizational level and working across the whole organization, working across multiple organizations, and we bring in the disciplines of enterprise agile coaching. And that's about guiding people and organizations through complexity. It's having an understanding of organization structure and design. It's knowing the adaptive principles. It's knowing how understanding the potential and limitations of different approaches to scaling. It's knowing when to descale. It's figuring out how to flatten organization structures, how to create networks rather than hierarchies. It's about exploring the big picture of the whole organization as a system. And it goes way, way beyond any of the work that an agile coach would do at an individual and team level, but it's still applying that agile mindset to coping with the complexity of the organizations today and the world today. And it sits on this foundation of the concepts of business agility. So this is a model from the Business Agility Institute that talks about the domains of business agility. And these are the areas where organizations do have to significantly change. And as an enterprise agile coach, I am guiding these transitions. One of the biggest transitions for many existing organizations is the switch to customer centricity. Steve Denning talks about the Copernican revolution as we move from focusing the organization on the people at the top of a hierarchy. The CEO's whims drives what we want. The purpose of the organization to generate profit for shareholders. Moving from that to the purpose of the organization is to create value for customers. We put the customer in the center of our organization, and everything that we do is about making sure that we deliver value to that customer. And as a byproduct, as a consequence of that, what we see is more sustainable organizations, more profitable organizations. And those businesses that have that agile mindset and the customer centricity. And then the areas around it, of course, the workforce, the partners, the board, the end-to-end value stream of the organization, the people who create customer delight. And then we look at things like structural agility, process agility, craft excellence, ownership and accountability amongst the people, a growth mindset. Strategic agility, being able to have a strategy, but what's the strong opinions loosely held, able to change direction as needed, but holding strong to the values and principles that underlie us. This concept of one team and of people engagement and people management, effective people management. And this is a model that I'm sure many of you are aware of. Dave Snowden's work on Cynefin. Our organizations today are very, very little of what we do is in the obvious space in the bottom right-hand corner. And we require of people in our organizations that the ability to see the system, to look at the whole value stream. And our organizations are fundamentally complex adaptive systems. And they most of what we do sits up in that top left-hand corner. And sadly, sometimes down in the bottom left-hand corner of the chaos space. If we look at the last 8 months in the world, chaos has been our norm. And the way that organizations have responded, the way that societies have responded, has been a picture, a contrast of different philosophies, different approaches. I live in New Zealand, and I'm fortunate to say that I feel the way that our government and our society has dealt with the chaos of COVID-19 has left us in a better place than many societies that I look at. But we still have faced all of the hardship and the economic challenges that the whole world is going through. There's no question about that. And leading organization and human change processes, coming up with useful strategies, not copying a recipe book, but knowing what recipes are there, and like a master chef, being able to adapt to take advantage of the ingredients that you have at your fingertips and create new, exciting, interesting dishes that delight our customers. Recognizing and overcoming organizational impediments, communicating effectively the value of the changes that we're advocating for, executive coaching and advising, engaging with executive teams in different stances, coach, advisor, facilitator, teacher, and helping to actually create teams at that executive level. Because in many organizations, you don't have teamwork at the top, you have fiefdoms. But if you're going to transform into a truly agile organization, it needs to be led by an effective team. And the enterprise coach is doing a lot of supporting that team formation. And it's balancing the teacher, mentor, guide, coach stances and the facilitator, and deliberately, consciously stepping in and out of those stances as is needed by the leaders that we are working with. And inspiring that collaborative culture. The transformation to strawberry jam from a bowl of strawberries, the radical shifts in organization culture, moving away from the hierarchical command and control structures, empowering people as close to the edge as possible, and creating an environment where there is joy in work. Joyous people do better work. There's a lot of evidence of that. So understanding the current state of the organizational culture and inspiring that craftsmanship-based collaborative culture that is needed in this modern world, and also helping the organization to become fundamentally more humanistic and people-centric. And this requires self-mastery, a commitment to self and professional growth, and a strong foundation in ethical behavior. I cannot remember who is credited with saying this, but this is painted on a building in Atlanta, Georgia, where Martin Luther King, I think it's on a memorial building to him, but he was in that building. You are personally responsible for becoming more ethical than the society you grew up in. I'm leading some work, myself and Craig Smith, leading some work under the auspices of the Agile Alliance at the moment, where we are exploring what would a code of ethical conduct for Agile coaching look like. And the types of things that we're exploring related to transparency and conflict of interest and confidentiality, but also in terms of being open and honest about what you can and can't offer to an organization, to a team, to being the guide, not the driver. These are hard ethical questions. You know, at what point is an agile transformation perhaps wrong for an organization? And how do I, as an ethical coach, tell people that, you know what, everything that I know doesn't work here. We need to find new ways. So that honesty, openness, transparency as the coach. Being able to give advice, but enabling your coachees to have free choice. And developing yourself in order to create an environment for others to develop. So none of these are easy disciplines. It's easy to talk. We can pay lip service to a lot of this stuff. But if we go deep into it, these are competencies that require many, many years to build. So if we think about a pathway towards mastery, and this is looking at the ICAgile growth path, you would start with either the certified professional, the foundational knowledge of Agile in general for product development, or the business agility foundations, where you're looking at the application of the Agile mindset beyond product development. Then moving on to the enterprise coaching, the coaching Agile transitions. And honestly, at that point, you have some knowledge. You are a beginner on a journey. One of the challenges, I think, that we have as an industry is certification is so attractive. I have done some training, I've got a certificate, does not mean I am competent. It means I have acquired some knowledge. We then want you to go away and build deliberate practice. The myth of the 10,000 hours, but certainly thousands of hours of deliberate practice, building on that knowledge and exercising those competencies and learning new stuff, adding to what you're learning constantly. And then we advise engaging in a longitudinal cohort program where you're under the guidance of existing experts and you're working collaboratively in this cohort where you're getting peer feedback and peer support over a 6 to 9 month program. And at the end of that, you can then do the competency-based assessment for an expert in enterprise coaching. And at that point in the Shu-Ha-Ri model, you're at Ha. You're an experienced practitioner. You understand your discipline well. And then deep continuing practice to go on and become a master practitioner. And the journey to becoming a master practitioner in any discipline, but in enterprise coaching in particular, is multiple years across multiple organizations. If you've got an enterprise coach who's only worked at one company, they are blinkered at best. You need that breadth of experience and knowledge. And to sum up the disciplines that we look for in terms of that enterprise coaching expert, the rubric, we look at guiding the change process, developing leadership, the range of coaching. Coaches, professional coach, facilitating groups across organizational boundaries, mentors and advisors at the enterprise level, for coaching individuals and coaching systems, coaching organizations, and able to create training programs and design training programs, and coaching at being able to step into that coaching stance at many levels, developing of oneself as a leader, and then guiding organizational agility. These are significant, hard disciplines that require a solid foundation of knowledge, which the ICAgile knowledge-based certifications are designed to give you. But becoming an expert is a multi-year program. So at this point, any questions? Please feel free to turn your cameras on, turn your microphones on. Let's turn this into a conversation.
Hello, Shane. This is Kishore. Thank you so much for the details.
Hi, Kishore.
Hi. Quickly, one question. I know it's not one quick answer that suits everyone, but what do you think the general timeline from a starter to becoming at least a practitioner and maybe to a master? So are we talking in terms of?
We're talking my own journey.
Yeah.
Took 4 years before I was at the point where I felt I could even approach, and this was the team coaching gate. And I was actively practicing and working with teams. I am not I would not get through the enterprise coaching gate because I don't have the depth of experience working in large organizations. I've advised many organizations, but I haven't spent that deep amount of time. The people that I know, that I respect, who've got this under their belt, from the learning, gaining the knowledge to deepening the competency, is a period of at least 2 to 3 years to get to be ready, for instance, to go into a cohort program and to truly become a master is decades. This is not a lightweight journey.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah.
For being an enterprise coach, this was a question asked to me in privately. I think it came in error. For being an enterprise coach, does it mean that I need to work in marketing, sales, and HR and other business departments? Or can I work on IT only at the enterprise? That was the question.
You need to have an understanding of the breadth of the organization. We talk in the Agile space about T-shaped skills. You have to have those T-shaped skills across, so it's not inside the disciplines of IT. This is now looking across the business. You don't need the depth, but you need the breadth. You need to be able to discuss marketing with a marketing person. You need to be able to discuss sales with a salesperson, so that you can relate your knowledge and experience and what you're bringing of this agile mindset to their context. It's no good me sitting down with a marketing person and talking about, well, in an IT team, we do it like this. That has no relationship whatsoever. So I might be drawing upon my depth in one area, but I'm able to relate it to the people in the other areas of the organization. So it's that mental flexibility, the growth mindset, to say, okay, here is my personal depth, but how could I, would I, should I apply it in this space? So I need to be a lifelong learner. I need to be comfortable to go into a new area of the business with the with an open mind and as a hungry learner, so that I can then explore that conversation. Does that make sense?
Shane, question, please. I mean, given what you've described now, from ICAgile sort of, let's say, practice area, I mean, professionals that you know, are there professionals who have gotten to this level at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We've got, well, I can talk to people like Michael Spade, Simon Powers. So some of them are fairly high profile, but there's also others who've worked across many organizations, but they don't wave their own flag. They're humble leaders.
All right. I mean, the reason why I asked that question is, I've had the opportunity to work in, large organizations, and I'm looking at, an example of one of the CEOs of a high street bank in the UK that I've sort of, worked in. I can't imagine that he probably would have had this depth of, of knowledge of even, let's say, the bank where he was the CEO, which is why I'm thinking, to achieve that level, from an organizational standpoint, maybe a very, very hard ask.
I'm going to say no, because it's not about, it's not spending 3 years in the marketing department and 3 years in the sales department and 3 years in the operations department and so forth. It's having that open-mindedness and the ability to learn to rapidly make connections. One of the key competencies is that systems thinking, and that ability to make those connections and see the whole, see the big picture. So, and that is a competency that can be learned, but then it needs to be practiced.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. That answered my question also. I had in the similar lines that it's, I have expertise on one side, but should I go into other areas and have gain some experience, or is it that mindset or openness to learn and pick up a few things from others? Yeah, I think that answers. Thank you.
It truly is that willingness and openness to learn, and cultivating that systems thinking viewpoint.
And maybe also taking from the coaching, it probably to ask the right questions to the experts in those areas, right? Finding the experts in those verticals. Yeah. And maybe I think that's a skill set that needs to be built as a coach.
Yeah. Powerful questioning. Yeah. One of the core competencies of coaching.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Shane.
Hi, Shane. My name is Neil. Thank you so much for enlightening us on the enterprise coaching, telling us the width and the depth of it. I mean, I was listening to most of it, and we're still talking about T-shaped skill set. I thought it's changing now to M-shaped skill set.
M-shaped, pie-shaped, yes.
When you talk about lifelong learning, then we talk about the M-shaped.
Yeah, deepening, and it's deepening and widening. So yeah, M-shaped or pie-shaped, definitely.
Diane, you had a question?
I had, but I could not really formulate it well in my head. So actually, I'm not really sure. Actually, my question was more related. Thank you, Krishna, by the way. Was more related about how to kind of start when you're an agile coach already and you want to evolve toward enterprise coaching, for example. It's how would you approach basically the leadership, because you need kind of the leadership support to be able to go through the different departments and deepen your knowledge on on all the different like skills and competencies across like the company to serve the company like in a better way. So how would you approach basically maybe the leadership, you know, on this question, especially if they're not really like they kind of want Agile, but they don't really understand 100% what it is. And in the end, they don't really want to. What they want is actually to get, you know, like the company better. They want to take care about the people, but they don't really care about, you know, like all the numbers.
Agile is just a brand. Agile should never be a goal for an organization. And when you talk to leadership about this, it's not about, you know, I need to do this in order to become a better Agile coach. It's, I believe that I can offer some additional value. I've got some ideas and experience here. I would like to, one, be able to see how it applies in other areas, and if some of the things that have achieved this value in this area we could achieve over here, and talk about it from the point of view of the metrics that matter to the organization, the customer engagement, profitability, time to market, employee satisfaction. What are the numbers? What are the metrics that make a difference to the organization? And then how could I take what I have learned here and apply it there? And now I've broadened that, and now I can move somewhere else. And it's, what can I offer to the organization in terms of achieving those goals? So relating it back to the organizational outcomes. But doing something agile should never be an organizational goal.
Thank you.
I have a question for everyone. What is the one emotion you have after listening to Shane? Type it in the chat window, please. One emotion you have right now.
It is a long road. The slide deck will be made available, Artie?
Yes, Shane, the slide deck and the recording will be made available in few hours from now.
So, Shane, I just want to use this opportunity to thank you, man. It's been amazing. It's been amazing. Some of the online and offline chats we have, and using some of these examples which you bring in, I just want to thank you, because it's nearly 11 p.m. 11:19, 20 past 11 for you in New Zealand. And you taking your personal time, this is your personal time, which you're not getting paid for, which shows that how much passion you have to bring that to the audience and enrich us with your knowledge and experience. I just want to thank you on behalf of Leadership Tribe and everyone in this group. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm humbled, and it was my pleasure. Really enjoyed it.